Hey guys, my name is Tyler Watson. You are watching the Direction Motivation Podcast. Today we take a look into my book, Not Fatherless, and have the conversation of what does it really mean to be able to live without a dad. Let's go. So growing up without a dad, it's a different world. I'll never understand what it was like for those that had a father. And writing this book, Not Fatherless, there was a hope that we would be able to create a book, a kind of a self-help book, if you will, for young people, young adults who maybe feel like there's a void in their life of, not having a father figure, And there's a lot of different reasons why you might not have a dad. Maybe it was because, your dad lost his life early on, or maybe you did have a father and, something happened horribly, or maybe you were just raised without a dad. You never met your dad, as was the case for me. And so when we talk about this, or another area you could talk about is maybe you had a dad that just wasn't a good dad. And so your perception of what a father is just isn't good. And so with that being said, this book was something that I'm passionate about because so many young people grow up without dads. And I was inspired because I was in Honduras, and a large percentage of all young kids are fatherless. They have no father. And so my hope was that we could create a book that would be a blessing, spiritually, psychologically, and really a helpful tool for young people who maybe feel like they're fatherless. I want to talk about what it feels like to be fatherless for a little bit today. Growing up without a dad, there were these moments that I would watch other kids and I would just be hungry to have the experiences that they had. In fact, my neighbors that live close to me, they were the Wallaces, and Dylan and his brother Wade became good friends of mine. And I'd never understood why they were kind of mean to their dad. I just never understood it. Their dad worked really hard. And when he got home, he wanted to play ball immediately with them. He would do anything. He would play football. He'd play baseball. He would lift weights with them. But they really took for granted his presence in their life. And I would try to be over there as much as I could because I love to play ball with them. I'd love to play football. I'd love to be around him. And oftentimes, Mr. Randy, which was his name, he would invite me for dinner. And he kind of became a semi-father figure for me growing up where I grew up. And I admired him. And so much so, I didn't have the ability to play baseball growing up as a younger kid because my great-grandmother couldn't afford to pay for it and then to take me to all the practices because of gas and everything else. And he allowed me to play on his team. He coached a league, and I got to play with his sons, and it was an awesome opportunity. But because of that and not having a father figure in my life, I was drawn to older men that I felt wanted to have an influence. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit, about how that's a great thing, but also how it's a harmful thing. And growing up, you just realize that, it's different for you, and I was thankful for those that wanted to, like Mr. Randy, that had, the heart to kind of be a little bit of the missing link. But, when you have to go home from the dinner table, that it's not the same. That's not your dad. It's never going to be your dad, but it's okay. And so for me, growing up, there were just things that were different. Now, my great-grandmother was a different woman. Like, this is just a fact. I mean, my great-grandmother knew how to build things. She worked on cars. She did all these things, but she didn't have the authoritative piece that I feel like a dad would have had that I have in my home. When I didn't want to listen or learn, she never really forced me to. And because of that, I wasn't disciplined enough, nor was I guess, threatened enough to feel like I needed to pay attention to certain things. And because of that, I missed out on it. Where now I'm a dad. If my kid tells me no, we've got a problem because I'm not taking no for an answer, right? I didn't have that. And so growing up, things are different. Things change. But also there's all these different aspects to it. As much as you need a father, you do need a mother. And as much as you need a mother, you need a father. And my great grandmother tried to be both. She did, but she wasn't able to. You just can't replace a dad the same way you can't replace a mom. And so with me not having a male figure in the home, there were these moments that I just pursued that. And the dangerous thing about that is that there's a lot of people out there that will take advantage of your voids. They'll take advantage of your weak spots. And my weak spot was always yearning for the affirmation from an older male. And so when we talk about going through the gang activity and the things that I went through, ultimately it was because I was being led by an older male that I really respected and thought the world of. And so one thing I can tell you to any young person or young adult that's out there is this: you were created for God by God. You don't need an older male to influence your life to become all you need to be. Now, I'm very careful in saying that, but you need to hear what I'm about to say. You need God-fearing people who walk with the Lord influencing your life. I'm not saying that you can do this life alone, because you cannot. I am saying that there are people that do not have your best interests at heart. And because of that, you need to be very careful about the people that you choose to follow and choose to circle yourself up with. Because there are people that will see giftings in you that will only care about the gifting, but won't value you as a person. And that's terribly dangerous for anyone like you and I. So with that being said, as I continue to grow up, I realized that there were just things that were different about me. I didn't have a confidence I feel like most kids had growing up, especially those with fathers. I always thought if something bad was going to happen, it was going to happen to me. And I went into that expectation because I wasn't prepared for a lot of things. Everything I've done in life, I feel like I've had to work extra hard at. I mean, literally. I remember being on the football field, and I would be terrified to be the first one to try to run a route because I knew that I just wouldn't get it right. Although I knew the route, and although I've ran it a million times, I lacked confidence because I lacked affirmation. I didn't have anyone telling me, yeah, that's right. That's it, son. Where I take my kids out and we practice basketball for Maddox, and I tell him, shoot like this, do like this. And when he does it right, I'm like, yeah, that's it. I never had that. And so a lot of us that grew up without dads, we grew up without affirmation. And in some ways that can be a good thing. In some ways it can be a very hurtful thing. Because if you're not careful, you can grow up to be a man still feeling like a boy because you've never been affirmed. There's things that I wish that I were taught that I write about in the book. One of those things was really talking about finances. I didn't have a dad. You watch young people, we can go back to, college football for a second and use this analogy. Ryan Day's the head coach of Ohio State, and he took over the program for Urban Meyer. And Jim Harbaugh, when they beat Ohio State, in the first, however long it's been. By the way, Jim Harbaugh has a losing record against Ohio State. Don't let the last few years fool you, okay? There's a reason he ran, all right? Sorry, that's just a side piece. But with that being said, Jim Harbaugh said, basically alluded to Ryan Day being born on third base, saying that, he didn't start from the ground up, that he got something handed to him. Growing up without a dad, you look around you and there can be these moments of envy. There can be these moments of frustration because you feel like other people are born on third base, but you're just trying to make your way into the stadium. Like you just want to see the game. Like you're not on third base. You're not even in the game. You just want to see the game. And that's how I was most of my life. And as you get older, you have to be careful not to have the victim mentality of they get everything, but I get nothing. They've got everything easy, but I got to work for everything. You got to lose that mentality. You can't operate in life with that mentality. If you want something, pursue it. Put in the work for it. Do it. But I didn't have that father figure to help me out and figure those things out. I had to make up in my mind that whatever I wanted to be and whatever I was going to be, I had to pursue it. And a lot of times young people forget that in this life, things are not just handed to you. but you have to pursue it. You have to have a discipline for it. You have to have perseverance. But as I grew, not being born on third, you go to high school and you're seeing other kids in brand new cars that their parents were able to buy them, and they're fortunate. But oftentimes that's because they come out of a good home. There's structure. There's a mom, there's a dad, there's double incomes, there's lessons that are learned, there's privileges that are given. I didn't have those. Every car I've had, except one, I should say, was on my own earning. I didn't even have a real car until I was in college. You get to college and you see other kids, they got these really nice cars. I'm just trying to get in the game. And so you look around you, and even in college and moving in, or even in high school at games, you see these fathers giving these kids advice, giving these young people advice, and you feel like you are just behind because you don't have the knowledge. You don't have the competency to be able to be where they're at right now. And I want to tell you, if you're watching this and you're a young person and you are fatherless, or you grew up fatherless, or you feel like there's a void, can I tell you that there's a few things that you can do to really offset the disadvantages of being fatherless? Here's the first one. Number one, find a mentor. I mean, a good mentor. Find someone in your church. Maybe it's someone at your school. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's a teacher. Maybe it's your pastor. Maybe it's your youth pastor. I don't know who it is, but find a mentor and tell them that you want them to mentor you, that you want to learn from them. It's a powerful thing, but it won't happen unless you ask. Here's another thing that can help you. Reading. Anything you want to learn or know can be fast-paced by reading, can be put forward by reading. Whether it's finances, whether it's learning how to do certain things. YouTube has changed the planet, but here's what I can tell you for me, and just being honest, is that most of everything that I've done in life has come because of really good mentors and because I've taken time to read and learn it. That's a fact. And yes, it doesn't take the place of having a father. There is nothing that will ever take the place of having a father. But sometimes you have to do the little things to help get ahead. Because the true reality is, not having a father does affect you that much. And we know it statistically. In writing this book, my hope was that you could understand a few things. You could understand what it means to have a firm foundation. You could understand what it means to be more than a statistic. You could understand that there are things in this life that you will go through that are hard, but you can make it. There's a lot of different things that we touch in this book of Not Fatherless. And it's true. It's true. It is a fact that life without a dad is hard. There's no getting around it. But at the end of the day, it's a very spiritual component. And I hope you understand that. And this is where I'm going to end at today. Is that regardless of the material things of not having a father, financial piece, the struggle, the voids, the heartaches, the hurt, the pain, everything that comes along with it, the being not born on third base and not having a new car and all these different things, whatever. Here's what I've come to know to be true. My life as a man, to be the father that I am today to my 4 kids, happened because I fell in love with God, who is the ultimate father. I am not near the father I am today. No way I would be. No way. If I didn't have a revelation. If I didn't have a revelation that Jesus is my father and that he loves me and he cares about me and he's passionate about me. And it's by that revelation that prompted me to be able to have the mentors that I had, to read the books that I've read, to believe his word and that it's good, and to understand that I don't need other people that aren't good for me. Here's what I know. I've been in ministry for 12 years. There are people that I've chased that are older men that I thought had the best influence for my life that only cared about my gifting. You have to learn to decipher and to know who's for you and who's not. You have to know that you are enough because Jesus says you are. You have to know that there's nothing in this world that's impossible when you put God first. You're smart enough. That's never going to be the question. It's going to be, how well do you trust the Lord? And how well do you walk with Him? It's good to see you guys. My name's Tyler Watson. You've been listening to the Direction Motivation Podcast. We'll see you next week.